save myself, since I'm not a hero, 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 since I'm not a hero.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy
A way to save myself, since I'm not a hero, 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 since I'm not a hero. Since I'm no hero, since I'm not a hero.
Hello, chat. How are y'all doing today? Let me just quickly switch to the playlist. Why is my laptop deciding to overheat? It always does this. I should not be surprised by now, quite honestly. We are doing our first reading of a fanfic. So let me just quickly switch to a starting stream. From the starting stream, I should say. Hello, Paige. You can't see this, probably can't see this right now, but in offline chat, Paige said that I added Bamboo Fight, and yes, I did. I couldn't resist. I could not resist adding Bamboo Fight. It's lovely. So how this is gonna work is that you guys gonna be reading along with me instead of me showing the fanfic on screen. So, for example, let me just go to default screen and cat. We got cat. This is how it's going to be. Look at that. A lovely cat. So basically, if you want to read the fanfic along with me, you have to go to the first link that goes to the actual work, and there's the author's Twitter, and then the actual author's archive of our own page. We're reading a fanfic called Morning Routine by Hannah Lily. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Please go and check it out. This is how it's going to work. This is to give authors more of a chance to like what's the word for it? Sorry, I'm a little tired. It's a 1 a.m. It's sharp 1 a.m. But that's okay. That's okay. But what we're gonna be doing is you read along with me, but you have to open up another tab or put me in like a little tiny window on your mobile device and read the words along with me, but I'll be reading them out, basically. I'm bad at explaining. I'm not surprised at this point. I'm gonna take a drink. But yeah. So please go and support Honolulu. I forgot to ask her how to pronounce her name. But that's okay. Let me read through the text, because there is some hurt and comfort. Hurt no comfort. So, and like implied character death and like memory loss, and Rambo, Michael, and Toba Hood. For like this, for characters, the characters from TSMP. I need to clarify that, not the actual CCs, but. It's gonna be chill. I'm gonna start reading now, so if you want to just hang out and chat, listen to me talk and read out, which by the way, I have a speech impediment and I'm dyslexic, so if I read some words wrong, don't try to correct me on it, because I already know I said it wrong. I'll correct myself, because I'm pretty good at correcting myself right afterwards, because I just learned how to do that over the years. But yeah. Okay. Let's go and read. The summary is: the peaceful song of birds and the gentle wave of sunlight flooded into Michael's small bedroom window as day broke. His deep ocean troubled sleep. He opens his eyes to the familiar wooden ceiling and watches the sky blue painted fan circle slowly above him. The hypnotic effect it had made him want to stay in bed for the rest of the day, but there are things that need to be done. Note: this is a relatively short story that takes place in the near future of the Dream SMP. Michael is a young teen in this, and he still lives in that mansion with Rambo, but only Rambo. Oh no. I don't like the implication of that. The peaceful song of birds and the gentle wave of sunlight flooded into Michael's small bedroom window as day broke his deep ocean-swelled sleep. He opens his eyes. Oh, okay, that's from the notes. Hold on. Michael sat up, but he paused and placed his face in his childhood yellow baby blanket. He may wake up with worse and worse headaches after the incident. The pain was like a dull buzz at the front of his forehead. It was bad in the morning, but it faded with the day. He pulled his face from the blanket and took a deep breath. He threw one leg over the side of the bed and then the other, as if the touching floor meant diving deep into the ocean. He paused to look around the large accustomed room with all of his happy childhood memories scattered across the floor in forms of toys and trinkets. They were practically useless to him now, but Michael couldn't bring himself to claim any of it. He took another breath and then stood up, sluggishly walked to the door. It opened to a massive hallway with big windows and lots of empty frames, where his family portraits used to be. Michael stuffed his hands in his pajama pants pockets and watched the floor as he walked into the foyer. The ceiling was so tall it could have touched the sky. The walls were so distant they could have been separate countries. The floor was so empty. Sometimes it felt like no one else lived in the house. Such a big place could make a person feel so small. He made his way to the grand staircase and placed a hand on the beautifully finished railing before bouncing up the steps. Despite the complexity of the place, he knew his way around, having spent nearly his entire life locked up here. At first, his parents forced him to stay indoors against his rebellious will to venture out and see more of the world. But now he stayed on his own accord. The only time he went outside was to visit the garden in the backyard. When he reached the second floor, Michael started for his parents' bedroom. Tall windows lined the hallway, letting in all the colors of the outdoors. As he came up to the room, he paused at the handle. His fingers were shaking. AMC Green, thank you. Welcome to the stream. Michael noticed a dark panic that attempted to creep up on him in the back of his mind. He closed his eyes and took a long breath, forcing that feeling back into his dungeon deep down. He opened his eyes and saw that his hand was steady enough to open the door, so he did. Unlike his room, his parents was simple, open, and clean like the rest of the house. There was just a bed and a chest. It was like the entire house was occupied by ghosts. Michael silently closed the door behind him and quietly made his way to the bed where his father, Bamboo, lay sprawled out and all of the blankets still asleep. Michael carefully went up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder to gently shake him awake. His father's eyes slowly opened, drowsy and glazed with sleep. Michael took a seat at the edge of the bed and waited for him to stretch and yawn until he was fully sat up. Dad looked around the room with that blank expression on his face before his memory slowly started to fade back. Michael softly took his father's hand and looked into his eyes. "Good morning," he said. Dad didn't hold his gaze. I'm sorry, but who?" His voice was as uncertain as his expression. Michael could tell that his dad was embarrassed about not being able to recognize the person in front of him. "I'm Michael, your son," he said. It took a moment for realization to settle across his father's face. "Wait, I'm sorry, It's okay. Just be with me, okay?" Michael interrupted his father's anxious spiral. They held each other's hands and breathed together. Michael told him where he was, how old they were, the daily routine, and that they were the only two members of the house. "Wasn't that?" Dad asked as he pointed to the chest that sat at the foot of the bed. Michael turned to look at it and paused before answering. "It's there if you want to open it, but you don't have to." Michael tried to sound unbiased, but he really didn't want his dad to open the chest. He hated the days that they went through the chest. He waited silently for his father's response, the suspense wrapped tightly around his shoulders. "No," Dad answered softly after a long, thoughtful silence. A wave of relief washed over Michael. At least today might be easier than the others. The two sat in bed and talked for a while before they decided to head downstairs for breakfast. Dad continued to hold Michael's hand for reassurance as they went through the halls that had become unfamiliar to him overnight and down into the foyer. "I remember that," Dad said, looking at the chandelier. "I paired it with my friends to build that. Flush or fish or something." "Foolish?" "Right, foolish, yes." His dad smiled. He actually built this entire mansion. "It took him a long time and it cost me a lot of gold too." Dad cut himself off when he looked back to Michael. "But you probably know all that, don't you?" he said with an awkward smile. Michael swallowed the angst rising in his throat, but he just pulled himself closer to his dad without a verbal response. The two of them made it into the kitchen. It was big like everything else in the house. All the windows faced the backyard where a beautiful garden of flowers and squashes could be seen. There was a big table in the center, filled of the room with 3 chairs. Jeez. Michael didn't have the heart to throw him out of the third one. Luckily, his dad didn't question the arrangement. Instead, he headed straight towards the cupboards. "I may not have the best memory, but I do know how to make killer waffles," he said cheerfully. "That is, unless we had them yesterday?" He turned around to ask Michael the cautious question. Michael shook his head in response, and his dad's eyes filled with joy. "Great, get ready for the best waffles of your life," he chirped. Michael sat in his chair and tried to hide his smile. They'd been having waffles for breakfast the past 5 days, but Michael wasn't about to complain. His dad's waffles really were the best. Dad asked Michael to set the table while he prepared the food. It was almost like they were family again. But the thought of happy normalcy made a pit of guilt in Michael's stomach roll and ache. So he tried his best to set aside those feelings by picking at the edge of the tablecloth. After his dad finished making the waffles, the two of them sat at the table. It was fairly quiet at first, but halfway through eating, they began to share old stories with one another. Even though it was mainly Michael telling the old stories and correcting his father on his. So what Tommy would do was, he would go into either Phil or Techno's house completely unannounced, then all you hear were the sounds of dozens of chests being opened. Dad smiled the whole time he spoke. Michael and his father talked this way in a while, and the amusement in his voice as he talked about Tommy made Michael laugh. I can't believe Mr. Inner used to do stuff like that. Dad nearly choked on his orange juice at Michael's comment. Do not call him Mr. Innit, he said out of breath from laughter, which made Michael crack as well. The two continued to laugh together until it naturally died down a few minutes later. Dad smiled at Michael, and for once, Michael felt safe. But then his dad's eyes shifted to the empty chair across the table, and a table wave of confusion crossed his face as he looked at it. If it's just the two of us, why the third chair? He asked. Michael looked down at his plate and poked at some of the leftover waffle bits with his fork. It's just for the guests, he said. He hated lying to his dad, but they were having such a great time. He didn't want it to be ruined. A moment of silence hung over them before Michael decided to break it. Want me to wash the dishes? He asked as he stood from the table. Dad slowly pulled his gaze from the chair and nodded. Sure, kiddo. He handed Michael his empty plate and glass, and Michael headed to the sink to wash them. As he cleared off the syrup and butter from the plates, he looked outside to the garden. It's really nice outside. Maybe we can water the flowers or something, he suggested. That sounds like a great idea. Dad called excitedly from the table. Really? Yeah, I know my memory isn't too great, but I feel like I haven't been out of this house in ages. We should go somewhere and do something. Doesn't Jack have a hotel? Crash. Michael accidentally dropped one of the plates. It fell to the ground and broke into several pieces that scattered across the tile floor. Dad quickly leapt from his chair and raced across the kitchen to make sure that Michael was okay. I'm fine, Dad, really. It was just an accident. He tried to pull himself away from being examined like a toddler. I'm okay, sorry. I just don't want you getting hurt. Dad took a step back, then inspected the mess. Looks like we're going to need a broom and dustpan. Can you point me in the direction? Yeah, in our closet back by the back door. Michael tried not to sound too stressed, but his hands were starting to shake, and he couldn't keep himself from swaying. While his dad searched for the cleaning supplies, Michael tried remembering his breathing exercises. Just one day, one normal day. So anyway, what do you think about my idea, visiting the big Jack Manifold Hotel? Dad called from the closet. Michael went deeper into his stiffest sway. Jack doesn't own the hotel anymore. Mr. in Tommy got it back, Michael answered. Oh, really? Dad's surprised face emerged from the closet. All the more reason to go see it then, he smiled. Michael flashed a fake smile back and fiddled his fingers, venturing away anywhere outside the grounds of the mansion was a bad idea in and of itself. Facing the hotel area specifically would be terrible. Captain Puffy actually stopped by a few times. She said that your memory's improving, but it'll be a while before you start remembering things on your own. I don't think we should go anywhere outside the walls of the mansion until we see that improvement. A lot of things have changed since your memory got worse. Going out there now might be too much for you. Michael fought the urge to bite his nails. My God. Excuse me. God, he hated lying. Then again, what he said wasn't really a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. Okay, so we'll stay here then, I guess. Dad walked towards him with the broom and dustpan in hand. He pointed to Michael with the dustpan. You okay? You're sweating, he pointed out. Michael caught himself and stopped immediately. Yeah, just loud noises, he said, and gestured to the shadow plate. Dad gave him an understanding nod and flipped the dustpan so that its handle was facing Michael. Michael took it and then knelt down to hold the pan in place as his dad swept up the broken bits of porcelain. There we go, all clean, he said proudly. Michael stood with the pan, gave dad directions to the bin, then dumped the poor plate's remains inside. Any words? Dad asked. Michael flashed him a confused expression. We are gathered here today to celebrate the life of its plate. Though I may not have known it for very long, at least he get emotionally attached to things. This plate was like a brother to me. Shut up, Michael sneered and closed the lid of the bin. What, are my jokes not cracked enough for you? Michael shook his head in disapproval and took the broom from his dad, then started making his way to his supplies closet. At least he went out with a bang. Stop. May you rest in pieces. I'm going to put myself up for adoption. Michael couldn't help himself from smiling. Even though his dad's jokes were absolutely terrible, he found them endearing. He hadn't seen his dad act like this in months. Michael put away the broom and dustpan and closed the supply closet door. He looked to his dad, whose gaze was focused on the window above the sink. He was staring casually with his hands in his pockets. His shoulders were relaxed and he wore a closed smile on his face. He looked peaceful and sure of himself for once. He looked happy, an emotion Michael had seen on his dad in a long time. It was like looking at a completely different person. Dad's face turned to Michael and he caught him staring. Is something wrong? You look sad, he asked. Michael shook his head. No, your jokes are just so bad they could bring people to tears. Michael said. Dad scoffed and gestured for his son to come under his arm. Exactly, tears of joy, he said and gave Michael a side hug. Michael gagged at the stupid joke and hugged his dad back extra tightly. So, how that gardening work you were talking about? Watering the flowers? He asked. Michael nodded excitedly. Alright then, go get some shoes on, he said. Michael cheered and beelined it out of the kitchen. His room was just down the hall. He'd be in and out in no time. He made sure to lock the door behind him. There were too many memories cluttered around his room, and any one of them could trigger his dad's bad memories. Michael raced to the closet, but it was nearly impossible to find anything underneath the piles and piles of clothes. He decided to change out of his pajama bottoms and put some denim overalls on instead. He was able to find one sandal, but failed to find his partner. Eventually, he gave up on the closet and went over to his bed. He searched underneath for the red sneakers he had worn a few days ago. He remembered kicking them off right before going to bed. He shoved an old board game of Monopoly out of the way and spotted both of them. He quickly grabbed each and threw them on without bothering to look for socks. Then he raced out of the room into the foyer. Dad, I'm ready, he called. There was no response. Michael started snapping his fingers impatiently and walked over to the kitchen. It was empty. Panic started to settle in as Michael went over to the back door. Perhaps his dad had already gone outside. He was here with fresh air, sweetened by the scent of all kinds of flowers, but when he looked out onto the butterfly-filled landscape, Dad was nowhere to be found. Michael slowly stepped back into the house and closed the door. It wasn't like Dad knew his way around the mansion yet. Maybe he got lost. Dad, Michael called as he went through the foyer once again. He passed the training hall and went through the library. He checked every room on the first floor, but there was still no sign of him. Michael went back to the foyer and looked up at the looming grand staircase. He felt his hands start to shake, but his breathing exercises were lasting on his mind. It was like his soul had left his body, and he would become a walking corpse. He took one shaking hand and placed it on the railing before dragging himself up the staircase step by step. When he got to the top, he could see that his parents' bedroom door was 3/4 by the way opened. Michael froze right where he stood. He swallowed a lump in his throat and forced himself to calm down. He had done this plenty of times before. He practically knew the conversation by heart. He shoved his quivering hands into his pockets and walked over to the open door. He used his shoulder to bump it open wide enough for him to enter the room. There was Dad, facing the opposite wall, sitting cross-legged on the floor. The chest was open. Items and photos from his past were sprawled out on all sides, like pieces from a broken plate. Michael slowly walked toward his dad. I came up here looking for shoes, but I got curious, so. His dad's voice sounded like his usual distant self. Michael peeked over his dad's shoulder. He was looking at an open photo of him and his husband. His name was Tubbo, Michael said silently. Dad didn't respond. Pain pierced Michael's heart, and he shifted his gaze up to the ceiling to avoid tears. It never got easier. He took another deep breath before walking to his dad's left side. He picked up a red and white checkered picnic blanket, made room for himself to sit next to his dad. Then he placed the picnic blanket so that was covering them both. Dad didn't move or acknowledge his existence. He was staring intently at the photograph. His eyes were watery, and Michael could always see the fresh wounds developing underneath his eyes. Michael wasn't sure how much his father was remembering right now, so he started to explain things in a low and gentle tone. That picture was taken when you guys first met in Lemanberg. Still no response. This was usually how it went. Michael just had to keep talking about Dad. He spotted the flag in a crumpled ball on the floor and reached for it. This was the flag, he said as he fanned it out. Michael slowly slid pinched fingers into the corners of the flag and started to fold it properly. He sat on the floor next to him and picked up another old photo. Tommy was in this one. 3 of that were exploring abandoned Parktopia, a place that Michael had heard of but never seen. Then his father reached forward and picked up a black and yellow striped flyer, the Bee and Boo. Michael had memories of his grand opening, but he hadn't visited that place in years. That's a flyer for the hotel you guys built. You guys were going to run it together and compete with Tommy's. He watched his dad flinch as a tear fell down his cheek. Michael searched the clutter until he found a small bottle with golden liquid. Attached to the cap was a cotton white cloth. He carefully opened the bottle and poured some of the sweet-smelling liquid onto the fabric. Here, he said, and gently pressed the cloth against his father's cheek. Dad reached up and took the cloth from Michael, silently whispering a thank you, before scavenging through more of Toba's old belongings. What's that? He asked, pointing to an old Walkman. Michael's heart cracked as he leaned over to pick it up. His dad used to listen to it all the time. He would burst into Michael's room unannounced doing stupid dances and sing along to the lyrics of random love songs. Sometimes he would share their headphones with Michael, and they would sit on his bed and listen to his favorite mixtapes together. That's Dad's old Walkman. You gave it to him as a present. He would always give him things. Michael felt warm tears crawl down the sides of his cheeks. He listened to it all the time. Michael opened the machine and pulled out the tape that had been left inside. It had a sticker that read Mambo's recommended, written in Sharpie. Michael put the tape back in the Walkman and placed it on the floor. He felt like a vulture, peeking at all these mementos of the past dragged out like the entrails of a ghost. He swallowed a sore lump and brushed off some of the tears. He watched his father pick up a small black box and open it. Inside were a pair of wedding bands. Dad plucked one from the box and examined it closely. He was quiet for a while before turning to Michael. How did it happen? He asked longingly. Michael looked to the floor as guilt stabbed his heart. He knew this was coming. He took a deep breath and locked eyes with his father. It was an accident, he lied. Sorry, taking a drink. Okay. I ran away from home after an argument. I went to some cliffs far north. Dad found me, but it was raining and the edge of the cliff was slippery. More half-truths. Michael hated recounting the story this way, but he had seen what telling the truth did to his father. If he would even mention the man's name, his father's eyes would roll over to a dark purple, and he would start speaking in a scary language that Michael didn't understand. He was never violent in this state, but he was a danger to himself, what with the crying and clawing. Michael couldn't watch his dad go through that again. Lying was the only way to get through this. Dad reached over and took Michael's hand. It wasn't your fault, he said in a reassuring tone despite the pain behind his eyes. Michael faked a small smile in response. Dad had no right to say that. He didn't know the whole story. He didn't know that Michael was a pawn in God's rigged game of chess, that he played with bait to the future vengeful villain. Dad didn't know that Toba's life was stolen, all because Michael was stupid enough to touch Dream. He didn't know that Tommy still blamed both of them for the death of his best friend. He didn't know that Technoblade took all the revenge for himself. He didn't know what the dead bodies looked like. Guilt tore Michael apart from the inside like a rabies crazed dog still. He gave his father a quiet nod of acceptance in response to the keep up delusion. Dad held his gaze for a few months longer before looking back to the clutter of memories on the floor around them. I may not remember all the things we did, but I remember him. I remember his voice, his smile, his eyes, his laugh. I just don't. Dad cut himself off as his voice finally broke and he started to cry. Michael gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. I just know how I could ever forget. I just don't know how I could ever forget. So apologies. He said as his body writhed in pain from the tears he couldn't hold back. Dad held the cloth up to his face, but some of the tears trickled onto his hand, causing him to wince more in pain. But all Michael could do was hold his other hand. They would sit here like this for hours, day by day, remembering all the things they used to do together as a family. Dad would cry, and Michael would do his best to take care of them. Then after all the tears, they would pack up Toby's belongings and place them gently back into the chest. Dad would say that he's too tired to do anything, and Michael would nod in sympathy. Dad would stay in bed for the rest of the day, and Michael would go back down to the first floor, all alone. He would spend the day cleaning and gardening, and sometimes he was stopped by bearing gifts and petty expressions. Sometimes Dad would leave his room only to ask, "Where is the bathroom?" or "Do we have coffee?" Sometimes they would talk for a bit before Dad wandered back up to his room like a confused zombie. The sun would go down, and Michael would make sure his dad was asleep before heading to bed himself. Michael would sit at the edge of his bed and cry before pulling the yellow baby blanket close to his face and falling asleep. Then, the next day, he would wake up to the familiar dull buzz of his morning routine. And that is the end. Make sure I drop a kudos. You guys better as well. Oh my god, that took a little bit out of my voice. But that was really cool. It was sad. It was really sad. That was what? 4,190 words, which is, I'm trying to think, 250 per page. About 15 pages, I think, which is really cool. For a short fic. And once again, please go and check out Hanalei. Oh. This is the first link to the story we're reading, Morning Routine. Follow Hanalei on Twitter. She's awesome. And also, subscribe to Hanalei on Archive Your Own. It's completely free to do that. Once you subscribe to an author on AO3, it'll give you updates to every time they post a new story or basically anything at all. Same thing goes for if you also bookmark one of the works as well. It will send you a notification through your email every time they post something new. Very, very, very cool. That goes for any author as well. But yes. One second, let me check something. I'm double checking something real quick. Also, update on the Discord server. I've been working on it for the past couple days. It's not fully ready yet. Just today I just added my mods. Some of the mods that I wanted. So it's not fully done yet. Not fully. But when it is open, I will post about it on both my old Twitter and my streaming Twitter. Which, by the way, you should go and follow my oh, that's not how you spell it. Go and follow my socials. I'm gonna try and do one of these streams earlier next time. Just did not have time to do it until now. But next stream, we will be doing another making a crack figure chat stream. We're gonna be finishing the noodle fic that we've been doing. Hopefully. I know we didn't last time, we didn't get too much done. But we should be able to get everything done at that time. Crossing my fingers a little bit, crossing my fingers. Also the link for that Discord is a temporary Discord. If you want to join it, that link will be taken down along with that Discord once my actual Discord launches, which should be pretty soon, probably within the next like 3 days or something like that. No promises though, because I am very bad at I'm very bad at managing Discord, because I never made like a server before, so this is all new to me, but it's very fun. Thinking. That was a pretty short stream. I want to stream more, but I know it's pretty late, even for me, for like a couple people as well. So I'm thinking, do we end it here, my dudes? Any thoughts? Look at the cat. Look at the cat. Look at the cat. Look at the kitty, kitty, kitty. Because if I end stream now, that gives me more time to stream tomorrow properly. I don't know how that works. I just said that because apparently a lot of people say that anyways. Okay, for a second I thought my TikTok link was broken. I had to double check there. How does that sound, guys? We do another... No, not another. We end stream here. All good? The next stream would definitely be longer. Don't worry about that. I had a lot of fun reading Honolulu's Honolulu. I don't know how to pronounce it. User. I need to ask her someday. It was a very cool story. I really liked how she wrote Michael. Like she wrote Michael as like very like innocent, but like aware of what's happening and stuff, and like very independent of himself, while also taking care of his dad Rambu after the passing of Tubbo, and how he like manages to like rehabilitate him into like helping him like slowly remember things on his own and stuff. I really like that story aspect. Also of how it's like set in like a kind of like in the future a little bit, like a couple years like to present day DSMP. This, you know, like present day DSMP where like right after everything happened, when it came to like Toho and Dream and stuff like that. It was just like a little really cool thing. I might read more of Honolulu's works as well, because I saw that she had other works when I was like looking for something to read. When I was looking for like the summaries and stuff. So we might read more of hers as well. But I did get a few other suggestions from other authors as well, so honestly, we'll see. We might just go through like every author's AO3 account one by one when it comes to the stories. I don't know. This is a whole new thing for me, but something cool and exciting and stuff. Yeah. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to me on YouTube. I upload VODs there. Follow Honey on, AO3, Twitter. Drop a kudo on the story we just read. All that good stuff. I hope you all have a wonderful night. I just cracked my knuckle. Ignore that. I want to actually set a goal before I end stream. I want to hit 100 followers before 2022. I want to see if I can do that. Because I feel like we're very capable of doing that. Quite honestly. I almost said like before Christmas, but like no. I'm not gonna gain 20 followers before Christmas. That's a little insane. That's not so, but 20 followers before 2022, it's more doable. If you want to support my channel or Twitch, watch things with ads for free. You can watch the most free thing to like support me is watching things with ads, and Twitch Prime, which is free in quotation marks, or you can subscribe with your own money and support me like directly if you want to as well. Alright, enough of that spiel. Thank you all for watching again. Have a good night, everyone. Get lots of rest. I know MCC is tomorrow, so that's gonna be an exciting day. Take care of yourselves. I know it was finals week for a lot of people, so I hope you did very well on your finals. You worked so hard, and I know that it's gonna pay off. Proud of you guys. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.